I'd rather stand alone, seeking a true understanding of our plight and condition, than to follow the crowd of the mentally enslaved who wrongly links our plight to a biblical fairy tale and our mindset to an urban slave syndrome myth. Their colonized mind lacks critical thoughts. In pursuing truth, at least my life would have served a worthy purpose. It won't be remembered among the mentally enslaved who lived and died without ever knowing the truth. Therefore, while their minds were never truly their own, their minds were owned and controlled by white oppressive forces who kept them believing mental enslaving lies. Those who know the truth must teach, African proverb. Those who controls a people's beliefs controls those people. Because the white ruling class controls all the information that millions of black people have been conditioned to blindly believe, this gives the white oppressors immense power over the black population. In fact, the white society's greatest power over black people is their ability to create false information that secretly serves the system of white supremacy, impose those falsehoods upon the black population, and then have our thoughts and behaviors aligned with the false information as if they were true. White oppressive forces have embedded lots of mental enslaving lies into the minds of millions of black people. The reason why millions of black people, now self-identified by the N-word, perceives ourselves as being our own worst enemies, while revering our evil oppressors in spite of such a brutal history to the contrary, and strongly defends the Bible, although it was in fact brutally beaten unmercifully into the blood-soaked minds of our enslaved ancestors, are all because these mental enslaving lies were deliberately embedded into our collective minds by white oppressive forces. Those black people who don't critically think or re-examine their beliefs never notices their mental change. This is not scapegoating, it's the absolute truth. The white society exploits its monopoly over information that black people blindly believes to mentally enslave millions of black people. It's the truth that white oppressive forces don't want the black masses to ever learn. Millions of black people now currently function based upon an elaborate illusory truth effect created by white oppressive forces. More specifically, an illusory truth effect is when people have been made to believe that false information is true because of it being constantly subjected to the false information. And their thoughts and behaviors aligns with the false information, thus inaccurately perceiving reality. The minds of millions of black people are trapped with an enormous illusory truth effect that has been grafted upon us and indoctrinated into our collective minds since birth through the white society's monopoly over information. Once you understand this concept, you can then understand what the real matrix actually is. The real matrix is not a computer simulation. It's not a movie, nor does it have anything to do with a red pill. The real matrix is an enormous illusory truth effect created by false information that has been repeatedly fed into our minds by the white society. We, the black masses, are functioning based upon the repeated false information that serves and protects the system of white supremacy instead of what's actually true. The human mind is like a computer. No matter how efficient it may be, its reliability is only as great as the information fed into it. Regardless of how intelligent people are, it is possible to control the input of contents fed into their minds. It's entirely possible to control what they'll believe. The white society's monopoly over information that are fed into the collective minds of black people have been exploited to embed mental enslaving lies into our minds. All that most of us currently believe are lies that serves and protects the system of white supremacy. Religion is to control. Media is manipulation. Education is indoctrination. Entertainment is distractions. And presidents are merely frontmen for the true ruling white elites who runs America. Elections are used to create the illusion that we have a democracy, but elections don't actually decide who's presidents. That decision is actually controlled by the white ruling elites who controls how the electoral college operates. These facts are deliberately withheld from the public through the white society's control over the flow of information. They keep us believing lies. The white society sits upon a throne of lies. And when I say that they've lied about everything, I do mean everything. It's been scientifically proven that Caucasians are not African Homo sapiens who became white due to migrating to the colder climates of Europe as an alleged form of albinism. They actually inherit their physical appearance from their Neanderthal ancestors. We Africans are not included on the Darwin evolutionary list. Unlike Caucasians and all other groups that evolved from subspecies primates, we Africans have always been Homo sapien. The reason why, in spite of their racism towards us, all other groups nonetheless attach themselves onto us is because doing so is necessary in order to falsely give themselves a Homo sapien identity. But the truth is that we Africans are the only Homo sapiens. Everyone else are actually scientifically classified as Homo sapiens sapiens. It means modern humans that evolved from subspecies primates. They're actually not of us. More evidence of the white society's lies is witnessed by how they created the narrative that their enslavement of Africans benefited us because before the invasion, we Africans were illiterate and uncivilized. But nothing could be further from the truth. Long before the Europeans invaded Africa, it was Africans that civilized Europe. All of Greece's first scholars were educated by Africans. The world's oldest university, library, manuscript, encyclopedia, mathematical tools, medical journals, human prosthetic, and the longest standing kingdom are all located in Africa. The largest wall ever built is not the Great Wall of China, it is the Great Wall of Benin, which is 4 times larger than the Great Wall of China, and it's recognized by the Guinness World Record as being the largest wall ever built. Africans were the first to build in stone and smelt metal, and introduce science, writing, mathematics, philosophy, and numerous inventions from the wheel, the plow, the calendar, medicine, paved roads, and government. Africans also introduced hygiene practices like shaving, toothpaste, and even the daily bath to Europeans. Much of this history has been erased or distorted by racist white historians to justify the slavery and diminish our African legacy. They've even misled millions to believe that Africa's ancient Egyptians weren't Africans. However, DNA analysis performed upon the mummies of the pharaohs have scientifically proven that they were in fact Africans. And radiocarbon dating testings have scientifically proven that the ancient kingdom was built by Africans many thousands of years before the first Greeks and Arabs arrived there during the 7th century. Everything the white society teaches are lies. Because the white society writes all of our narratives and controls our media images, they've also misled the masses into believing that black people are the leeches of society that haven't contributed much towards the building of modern society. And many people believe this. But the hidden fact is that in spite of cultural traumas wrought by the injustices of slavery and unrelenting white racism, most inventions that have revolutionized the world were in fact either invented by black people or were directly inspired by earlier inventions made by black people. However, in order for black inventors to get their inventions mass produced, they have no other options than to go before white companies. These white companies acquires the right to the invention and then places white faces in front of the technology. The Patent Office has also been used to steal intellectual property rights from black people for centuries. These scenarios literally allows the white society to continue exploiting the genius minds of black people while simultaneously denigrating us, creating the appearance that most inventions are coming from the minds of Caucasians. Your entire perception is a white deception. The first step towards reversing our brainwashing begins with learning and accepting the fact that embedded within most information that we receive from white sources are fraudulent propaganda that are designed to manipulate us to think in ways that are against our own interests and that instead serves and protects the system of white supremacy. Now that you know that all that you've been misled to believe are lies, now I will present a brief summary of the real world. It is the real black people's matrix. Black people today often gain wealth within the white dominant society by generating profits for the white institutions, particularly in entertainment and sports. As a result, wealthy black celebrities and athletes are celebrated within the black community. However, many are now contractually restricted from speaking out against systemic white racism. Their silence on black oppression contributes to a fading of black liberating ideologies from the collective minds of the black masses. In place of genuine black leaders, we not only have puppet leaders who appears to represent the black interest, but are actually in line with the white power structure that funds and regulates them, often through mechanisms such as their 501c3 tax-exempt status. This alignment dilutes the pursuit of black liberation and replaces it with performative advocacy that poses no threat to the white status quo. This dynamic is then reinforced by constant propaganda that convinces many of the black masses to believe that we are our own worst enemies. Over time, the theme of black liberation becomes removed from our collective minds. Some black people, I'm sure you've all heard this, some black people often react with hostility whenever the topic of black liberation is raised. Now, while this is the black people's matrix, and while doing this to us, they have us believing that a biblical fairy tale will come down and rescue us. This is the state of our condition. And our people are so mentally enslaved that telling the truth offends millions. And there are those of us who are so mentally enslaved that they will tell me, shut up and just keep reading your Bible. It's how the mentally enslaved have been conditioned to function as wardens of their own mental prison. It is time to elevate our minds and wake up. One love and peace.